Previously on the gavel, Judge Grimmadine is confronted with the truth and forced to shoot herself. The crew settles in aboard the NBV Clear Advantage, and Eurus' familiar arrives. And now, the judge speaks.
So, Grim sent 2 letters privately, one to Inspector General Eurus and one to Constable Lenny. And the one she says to Lenny goes something like this. Brother Lenny, you are the moral compass of this team. Your ethics always point true north. Therefore, I trust you with this command. If ever, for any reason, you see me beginning to devolve into the depths of tyranny, if ever I lose sight of the highest ideals of justice, fairness, and freedom, I charge you to execute me on sight. And she sends a very similar one to Eurus, more along the lines of, if anything bad happens to my children, and you see me starting down that dark, dark road, put a crossbow bolt between my eyes and put me out of my misery.
I send back a message that says that I solemnly swear to ensure that she does not become the widow.
You'd probably get something back signed in triplicate because it's the Inquisition.
This one's in my own blood, you know?
Good, I got a spare.
You have signed a legal and divine pact because A, it's with an inspector, B, it's with a demon.
Ooh.
So,
Sexy.
but you haven't said you can have my soul if. That's what no one gets. You rent your soul. You don't sell it all, the whole damn thing. You say, look, I won't give you my soul. Could you please kill me under these circumstances? Oh, I like killing, so anyway.
Murder.
So, anyway.
Sorry. I got a little exuberant.
That's
Nice.
okay. It's your thing. Lenny is not content to send a letter back. Lenny needs to go see the judge. And Lenny shows up
Where does he find the judge?
in her quarters.
If it's not working hours, she's in her quarters.
Lenny walks in and he sits down across from the judge because she's got a kick-ass desk too, of course.
Oh yeah.
And he's holding the letter in his hands.
Ooh, what does her desk look like?
What does her desk look like?
You'd have one of those desks that's built into a large filing system.
Yes.
The monument in your office is not the desk, it's the file cabinets.
Yeah.
There's a goddamn sea of them. But there are plants sitting on top of
There's
them.
plants. There's a mandolin hung on the wall. It looks like it's got
There you go.
use. There's, a couple of portraits of family members.
Wanted posters.
A couple of wanted posters.
Paper everywhere, yeah. And every once in a while, this hideous parrot keeps coming through and asking for stuff.
She keeps a supply of crackers on hand for him, in addition to the stuff that he asks for.
Bribery won't get you anywhere, but keep them coming.
Not bribery, Doe said. It's merely common courtesy.
I don't see you feeding the Inspector General crackers when she comes in your office.
The Inspector General's proclivities may be beyond my ability to provide.
You ever figure out how to put her hobbies in a bowl, let me know.
All right, let's get on target here.
All right.
I need the Degralancy file.
All right, so Constable Lenny comes in.
Lenny sits down across from the judge and he's holding the letter in his hands. And Lenny looks worried. Lenny is not happy. Lenny is certainly not the normal kind of chipper dude that he normally is.
What's troubling you?
First, thank you for your trust in me, and more importantly, for your trust in the law. But know that, see, I see you as our moral compass as well, because, see, we are two sides of a coin. And you know this, while I hold myself to uphold the law and to bring those who break the laws of our wonderful home, whom we both belong to answer for their crimes.
God damn, where'd that fucking dog come from?
I believe in you as the one who fairly meters out justice. And I am thankful that me and my fellow members of the constabulary are not the ones charged with metering out justice. See, I've seen that devolve. So Lenny pauses for a moment. He looks at the letter again, and you can't read his face for anything. And the honest truth is, if you've thought about this now, and especially after that battle, and look, I understand what may have brought, the fear of losing a child or children, that will dredge up some feelings. See, I believe you. I believe in you, but I believe you have the wisdom to know what's possible with lesser people in your position, and more importantly, that you recognize how this life can jade us. I don't know that it's possible that you can become what you fear. And with that, Lenny stands up and he walks over to the fireplace, and he's still holding the letter that he's received.
What do you mean you couldn't find a chocolate fondue fountain? Come on!
That's amazing right now.
What the hell is that?
I tried as hard as I could, Captain. I went to the market and I walked up and down for 2 hours, but I could not find a fondue fountain for the price that you allotted. There was one for 350 North bucks, but that's 350 years of rent.
What?
I thought I gave you a fucking, unlimited budget for this shit. Come on! This is Degrelancy, damn it!
350 North bucks is a ridiculous price to pay for something we're going to use for one party, sir.
I'm gonna ask the same of you.
You?
Because if I become less than,
Yes! Everyone has mutual death pacts. This is fantastic.
This is the makings of a world war. I'm just saying.
This is
how
he
World War I
tosses
started,
the
y'all.
letter into the fire and turns around.
This is some real Klingon shit. I'm glad to be a part of it. Let's get out the daggers and cut our hands, man.
That is unsanitary.
I've wanted to be a Klingon all my life, man. Put a viper on her, slit my palm. She's just babbling on. You don't even know anything about this shit. You're like, Klingons? What the fuck plane is that? She must be some demon shit. God, these demon drugs that they're on.
This must be from a different plane of existence.
Graham crackers and the marshmallows. Come on!
Oh, shit.
I expect
Why'd you
your
have to say
justice to be swift
Try one some
and
s'mores.
unyielding.
Yes, I'm gonna bite that s'mores head off.
I'm sorry, Lenny. You're trying here and you're being interdicted.
Emphasis on the dick.
We have to let her say whatever she wants. She's the producer, but I would never. But
Good editing.
I'm gonna get through it. I've
We'll
got
get
just
through
a
it.
little more. I've just got a little more.
Right,
this
I'm
kind
bring
of
it home,
thing
I
is,
promise.
This kind of thing is why we keep coming back. But Rexis wants to talk, I think.
No, that does me accidentally clicking your hand.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Lenny, you can try to go ahead, but we're kind of on fire tonight.
So anyway, Lenny tosses the letter in the fire. He turns around and he's wiping away a tear, and he says, I expect your justice to be swift and unyielding. I and my fellow constables must be held to the highest standards, else we may as well be a bunch of adventurers. And I don't want that. And Lenny bows. He goes to leave and stops at the door and turns around and says, I accept your charge on one condition.
What would that be, my friend?
You must allow me to give you the warning that if I see your actions becoming less than the standards we set for ourselves, I need the opportunity to warn you so you can take your own corrective action.
Only if you allow me to do the same for you.
Agreed. I believe we have court.
Thank you, Brother Lenny. I believe I can go forth now with a greater degree of peace of mind.
Absolutely.
All rise. The Right Honorable Judge Advocate General Saoirse Grimmadine presiding.
Please be seated.
Date of Violetta against Dorcas Villacaster, The charge, Your Honor, is degralancy.
I still.
Degralancer! Degralancy! Bastard! I hate them!
A glass bottle is thrown from the gallery.
Bang, bang, bang! Order!
It's a dwarf.
Counselors, if you wish to proceed.
I have nothing.
Your Honor, I'm afraid we've done our absolute best to contain the situation. As you can see, the proper measures have clearly been taken to nullify this man's abilities. Unfortunately, there seems to be a problem with getting a fondue fountain.
Fondue fountain?
Objection, Your Honor. Changing the subject, though I too would like a fondue fountain.
Agree.
Sustained.
Guy pleads innocent.
Of course he pleads innocent.
You know degralants.
Degralancy.
No one's going to admit to being a Degralancer. Come on now.
Degralancy.
Bastard!
Your Honor, this man has been found performing degralancy in public, under town.
In public, of all
In
things.
public?
Bastard! Have you no decency?
He was.
Lenny
Well,
just
one
spits on the
He was,
ground.
he was found under town and performing lewd acts of degralancy.
Can you quit saying the word?
There are children on this boat.
And I am a fucking prosecutor. What do you want me to do?
I thought you were gonna say
Just
I'm a fucking
the
prostitute
charges.
first.
I mean, you're not wrong.
For using the Degralancer.
But, you know, what happens after hours happens after hours, damn it.
There. True story, and you do good work, I'm just saying.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll leave you overviewing on, what's the goblin yell? Gulp?
I'd rather not say. Yes, was found under town performing lewd acts of degralancy in public.
There are several witnesses. He was caught with a flying squirrel and a waving fan and a canoe oar. He was definitely performing degralancy.
Can we stop using the word? We've said the word. The word is in.
I'm just gonna throw this out here
Record.
again. I still have no fucking clue what that means.
Let the record show that Dorcas, what the
I
fuck
love
his
it.
face is guilty on all charges of degralancy.
That's just the entire prosecution's case. He's just guilty.
He was caught with articles of degralancy in front of several witnesses.
Inquisitor
Ooh.
General, do you have any input on what his sentence should be?
Well, you know, I could use some more furniture in my quarters. He could always just hang out there for a while, and maybe some tomatoes could be thrown.
Hey, why don't we leave the tomatoes out of it? They didn't do those acts.
Oh, of
It's
course,
not
of
grand
course.
degralancy. It's just degralancy.
I think Inquisitor General, perhaps a brief stint in service to your office may be in order.
He has to be an article of BDSM furniture. He's sentenced to be a table. Oh my god.
BDSM furniture, casual professional furniture.
May the record also show what are they called? Fucking recorders.
The stenographer.
Fucking recorders.
The court stenographer.
No, they're now fucking
Court
recorders
stenographer,
now.
could you please read off to me the state of the defendant as he is brought into court?
Was he clothed? Is that what you're asking?
He-
I'm
He was-
really confused as to what your question actually is.
Obviously not.
Well, he was brought in from the cells, but when he was arrested, he was wearing an apron and a face shield and holding an umbrella and wearing a parachute. He was definitely engaging in degralancy.
Well, I mean, at least
And he is and let the record show that he is now completely covered in maple syrup. There is some random dog that has suddenly materialized. It's a blink dog. It just keeps kind of like in and out of existence and just barking and whining.
Is this the defendant's first known public act of degralancy?
Yes, Your Honor.
I mean, nobody does it just once. Come on now.
This is just the first time he's been caught.
You've already sentenced him, and this is kind of... You can do this, but if you want to, like, upgrade the charges,
No.
do it or get to the next case.
No, that would not be fair.
All right, you've dealt with this degradant appropriately. They're like, you know, I have to deal with so much stupid stuff on this job, but today I feel like I finally served justice.
Degradant.
And then a gnome is brought in.
Not again.
Your Honor, oh yeah, it's the same one.
Oh dear.
Your Honor, the state of Northbeach charges that this character, whose name I've forgotten, but is in the document somewhere, I'll look it up later, did, knowingly and with malice of forethought, detach and rearrange several Babel balloons
Ugh, that asshole.
to spell the word...
Oh my gosh.
which is the only swear word in Arcane, which is so flagrant the universe censors it so that when you say the syllables, they only come out.
Wait, so you mean I can't say...
He created a sign that said the word
Nice.
a half a kilometer wide.
Oh my god.
I'm pretty impressed with
I mean...
That's an
it's-
act of pretty
Yeah.
magical skill, really.
Do you have any idea what that did to the flight paths that day? I was late for all of my appointments because everyone was standing around taking...
Oh, Eurus, it was worse than that. It censored the air over the writing so that darkness was cast on it and only people with dark vision could fly through there.
Oh, I mean, I'd be fine.
It was like super dark clouds gathered over it to censor the word.
Totally fine with that, but I mean, it totally fucked up my day otherwise. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty mad about that.
Your Honor, I'd like to approach the defendant.
You may approach, counselor.
Outstanding. So,
You call the defendant to the stand. The defendant takes the stand. Kind of a smile on her face.
character whose name is yet to be determined. May I ask, what in the world compelled you to perform such an impressive and yet offensive act? I mean, I'm sorry, I just gotta give you a hand. Like, that's incredible. What made you do it?
And the court recognized that taps have been given.
Captain, I think you understand me the best in this room.
I mean, you're probably not wrong, but I still gotta wonder, like, what in the world could have gotten over you?
I got really high,
Uh-huh.
and I had an idea that made me laugh so hard I had to go to the hospital.
Uh-huh. And?
And when they told me just how much I had injured my respiratory system laughing at this idea, I decided that even though I was already in trouble for creating an illusion of a giant penis over North Beach, that if everyone laughed as hard as I did the first time, that I might get away with it, but you have to understand what it's like to be a gnome and figure out what the biggest possible prank on your friends is, but this one was just too big for my friends. This one had to go for everyone, and if anyone had any idea what I'd written, it would have been perfect, but only people who went to school for arcane studies know what really went on, or what the word is, or how to say it.
Could you, for the court's records, of course, could you repeat the word that you so eloquently wrote in the sky in Babel traffic balloons?
Wait a minute. No, he can't say that.
She sits there with her mouth open, like eyes darted between you two, like, should I say it? Should I not say it?
Do it.
No, come on. That's not. There's other arcane casters here.
You've already been caught. Like, you've already admitted to the act. At the very least, you can put it on record. And then if you at least
Lenny gives him a dirty look.
admit to it, you might get off with, a lesser sentence. We just want to know what it was that you wrote in the sky, Babel balloons. Could you please repeat for me the word that you wrote?
The word is a slang term in the arcane language that scrolls are written in. It is the only swear word in the arcane language that scrolls and other magical incantations are written in. And the word is pronounced sometimes sucker, head, ass, fucker, hole, loser,
Oh, God damn it.
That's
Face.
enough. Thank you.
grand,
That
giga,
Miss,
ultra-
if you
furthermore-
could, please, thank you. That's plenty. Let the record show that the witness has identified the word many times and has confessed to the act.
Your Honor.
Clearly shows no shame in doing so.
Throw the book at him.
I can't believe you're back in my courtroom for this again.
Your Honor, I asked to have it tried at this court because it was tried here the first time. The only way I'm ever going to see the light of day again is if someone who got the joke the first time gets it a second time and takes in the fact that nobody got hurt, even though I obscured airspace over Northbeach.
Many of us may have gotten the joke, but the fact of the matter is you disrupted Babel airspace. No one was hurt this time. So I'm going to sentence you to 40 hours of community service with Babel to make up for what you did. Bang!
That rotten son of a bitch. Let him just die in a cell. I can't believe he's hip.
The court calls the case of Violetta versus Joellen Blackfire. They lead in the half-elf who you busted in Sable for running guns. There have been a lot of trials of the people you busted in Sable, but this is one of the bigger ones. She's like, you receive her deck, you play it out. She's like level 9 or 10. Like, she's tough. I mean, she should have made her safe. She didn't expect a psionic attack. Now she's here.
Grim looks, if possible, more solemn and austere than she normally does.
Charged with smuggling gunpowder, smuggling firearms,
Multiple times.
smuggling illegal magic materials, gun running, assaulting an officer multiple times, several acts of theft, racketeering, bribery, blackmail, trafficking, 12 counts of card fraud, and 13 televiolations. How do you plead?
I ain't gonna just go down there. You know what? They know that mountain down this bullshit. You know, you throw me out a window, go crash, go down the street, you know, bash poke my nose. Gotta kill me. I'm
Bang! Bang! Order! How do you plead, Miss Blackfire?
She seems to be pleading not guilty. Yo-ho.
Counselors, if you would please.
Well, Your Honor, and Blick is just gonna, like, step forward and take out a scroll, and it just seems to go. Well, Your Honor, the worst of the charges have already been brought against Joellen Blackfire, but if we feel the need to elaborate on such, it was found that she had imported roughly 250 tons worth of illegal goods over the course of 13 transactions, dealing in teletransportation, illegal, undocumented teletransportation for that matter, and has been dealing in multiple circuits of falsifying documentation, identification, registrations for illegal class and level cards, and name changes so that wanted criminals and known felons can easily enter and leave Sable and Northbeach as they please. In the case of the assault in Sable, and in many instances prior to this, she has been identified as the instigator of multiple physical altercations with officers who have attempted to break down her operation. These officers have either come up dead or severely maimed, injured, many of them with their tongues removed so they cannot identify her. It was found that many of the items not specifically related to her weapons dealing had been stolen from official sources, namely our warehouse in Ocean City in Undertown. We have sufficient evidence to convict her and place her at the scenes, or place her lackeys at the scenes. And frankly, I don't think there's anything more to say about this.
I will interject and say that on a lawful level, there's some question in Northbeach law as to whether her gun going off 5 times and hitting Kiva 5 times was 5 counts of assault or 1. So you have to touch on that.
As the arresting officer, this is a wholly, irredeemable defendant. She does not regret anything.
Defense?
This is indefensible. I believe he needs to take his deal.
At this time, with the severity of the charges, the prosecution would like to recommend the death penalty.
That is my recommendation. Take the deal.
You don't want to do that. I know names.
Accept that deal. You need to accept that deal. There are worse things than death.
Names.
You only got me. You didn't get nobody to work for me.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may, Agent Revere.
If Ms. Blackfire is willing to cooperate and give me the names names and information of all her associates. I'd be willing to oversee life in prison for her as a more...
You realize that sentencing a half-elf to life in prison is committing to about 100 years. 100-year drain on resources.
Urana, I would like to amend that statement to undeath in prison.
Whoa. Ooh, oh, I don't know if that's a very controversial practice in the city to like condemn them to an eternal eternal jailing. Ooh, that's something I think you have the power to do, but that's
far even for me.
It's incredibly serious statement of charges. Frankly, she's assaulted an officer with a repeating firearm, which we have not seen the likes of in Northbeach or Sable up to this point. We have seen repeating crossbows. We have seen the damage that they are able to do. We implement them in our military, and frankly, with the ability to produce even more destructive power at such an insane rate of fire, and being able to do so without needing any magic is a danger to the city and everyone in it.
If even the defense won't go to bat for this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, this woman. Now, what you have to understand is she does have a lot of information.
I'm like I said, I'm willing to consider taking her on for life in prison. I don't know about life and not death. As an Inquisitor, I find that very thought offensive. The idea of forcing on death upon someone and then jailing them is beyond even my thoughts. I would...
With all due respect, Rexis, Agent Rexis, I'm sorry.
Oh, of course. Go ahead.
How many people do you think have died at either her hand or her order? Records show that I disagree with this particular statement, but it is not within...
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I think we should guarantee the release of death upon the end of her sentence. It's the humane thing to do. Yeah, life in prison with the release of death upon end of the, agreed upon.
Undeath. As long as her undeath lasts.
Yeah, well, in this case, you actually have to make sure the person dies when undeath is an option.
May I remind you, we have Deck 12 that is just waiting for eager prisoners.
Well, I mean, I get that, but, there has to be a place that we contain her, and I understand that, magic makes that a little bit easier, but...
There is a way to indefinitely hold her on the plane of incarceration. Blick is correct. This is theoretically possible, and it's something we should consider. I'm just against the idea of forcing on death.
Here's my intrinsic concern, a concern that all mortals just do not seem to get. What is the point of incarcerating her indefinitely so that you can penalize her, so that you can feel like she's gotten enough punishment? That just makes you the same level of bad that she is. At least just get the information out of her and kill her if she's not going to be of any use to us and we don't want her around anymore. There's no purpose in killing her and then indefinitely incarcerating her just for the sake of cruelty.
I agree.
Of course.
Grim gestures. Counselors, Inquisitor General, Agent Revere, Miss Bombini, if you were present, you would all approach the bench, please.
Of course, Your Honor.
I'm of two minds.
So she basically is calling for a group huddle here. And of course, Concat, everybody's here.
This is legitimately the worst criminal we have seen in our time that we know of. We are aware that there is another individual that has been orchestrating these kinds of things in Sable. We have not identified this individual, and until that time, I personally feel that we should hold Joellen Blackfire accountable for everything that has happened in Sable. Yes, so may I also state that the point of holding her in undeath is not necessarily a form of reform, but a form of punishment. I do not feel that she can be reformed. I feel that she...
I must also remind you that my testimony was that she was irredeemable.
Elves have a natural lifespan. And that lifespan is extended indefinitely if they have no life. So, what is worse to someone who lives a long time and eventually meets death? Someone who lives forever and will never see death.
That is a horrible fate to put a person through, and it will have an indelible mark on your soul doing something that you're suggesting.
There's poetry to it.
I have seen war. Thank you very much. I'm well aware of the consequences. You're not wrong.
You are mortal, you cannot conceive of forever.
Although I don't agree with Blick's assessment, I do see a certain amount of justice being done. The lives that she's taken cannot be recovered. The damage she's done to the city cannot be recovered. Death feels cheap for her.
I've made my points. It is up to the judge, Your Honor, to make the final decision.
This is very difficult because, Captain, you and I have both seen war. We've seen the absolute utter devastation wrought by guns and gunpowder. All of us were involved in the raid. All of us saw the destruction she brought to Northbeach. But this would set a very... Captain, I feel much as you do. She is irredeemable. She, personally, I would believe she deserves a fate worse than death. However, I am deeply concerned at this setting a precedent. It's one thing to make an example of a dangerous criminal. It's another thing to set this kind of a precedent. It's...
Perhaps this is the time that a precedent for this kind of atrocity be made.
You're talking about punishing someone with a fate worse than death, expanding their ability to suffer. Can you imagine if that ever escaped?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a very dark deed here, and the Inquisitor General just told you that it's a bad idea.
Yes, well, the Inquisitor General is nearly immortal.
I very casually look over at Grimmadine and say, it's what the widow would do.
Demon, not an angel.
I know, right?
That's low.
Captain,
Your Honor,
I understand why you have suggested what you have suggested. I really do. But I feel it is in the interests of justice and fairness that we cannot proceed with such a sentence. It is a step down a dark path.
Your Honor, is why you are the judge.
I do hope you know how valued you are, both as a captain and as my prosecutor.
Bombini looks incredibly relieved that the judge decided not to go forth with the suggested punishment.
I was going to consult you on the ethics of this issue since you seem to have a very intricate understanding of life as much as my Inquisitor General has an intricate understanding of death. This is what I'm willing to propose. We can offer her a plea bargain. I don't mind sentencing her to life in prison if she's willing to give us the names. All of them. If she's unwilling to give us those names, I'm going to execute her right here in this courtroom.
I see that as holding value. That makes sense to me.
Blick just kind of scoffs, but says nothing.
Eurus, Lenny, Blick.
I would rather see that than the alternative. That is true.
Like justice is
You have to make sure that you are not becoming the evil that you are trying to prevent. And if that means that she doesn't get sentencing to the level of her crime, then that is unfortunate, but we cannot let the judge go down the path of evil.
None of us can go down the path of evil.
It's most especially important that you do not.
At sometimes I wonder if justice is a matter of good and evil, or what is right. That's all I have to say.
I don't disagree.
Miss Blackfire,
She looks up, raises her chin.
this is what I'm willing to offer you. If you will give us the names of your cohorts, shall we say, who are engaged in the same sort of behaviors that wound you up in my courtroom today, I am willing to commute your sentence to life in prison. If you choose not to accept this bargain, you will be sentenced to execution.
I'm a soldier, Your Honor. Which one you think I'm gonna take, the bars or the bullet?
I think that depends on the soldier.
I think 150 years on a boat does not sound like a good end for a fighting woman. Would you rot, or would you be frozen at your age? Leave a pretty corpse. Give him something nice to bury. What a waste. You gonna shoot me in the courtroom like they do? Uh-huh.
Out of character, did she just say, I dare you to do it?
Shit, are you gonna shoot me in the courtroom like you did that one guy?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you line up 6 volunteers.
Oh no, Miss Blackfire. I'm not going to have volunteers do this. This will be between you and me. So your choices before you, Miss Blackfire. Either you can accept the plea bargain, or you make peace with whatever gods you worship.
Let me put it this way, Your Honor. I'm willing to talk, but I'm not going to jail.
No, that's where you're wrong.
then you can pop me like a zit right here.
Your Honor, if I may, we have other ways to acquire information.
Captain, are we talking about interrogation?
I would see her turned over to
We're talking about
my
interrogation.
department
Yes.
temporarily.
Are we talking?
Chemical
We are
interrogation.
talking about.
Are we talking
we
about
are
torture?
talking about
Or are we talking about
acquiring necessary information, means of which I don't think are.
I don't wish to bother you with the details.
Objection, Your Honor. These are barely veiled threats of torture.
Sustained.
They're not veiled at all.
Interrogation is interrogation. Torture is torture. They are two different things.
Your Honor, for the safety of our people
Wait, doesn't
and of North Beach,
our rat folk friend?
would you rather these people that we are unfamiliar with, that are still wreaking havoc and have massive potential to do so in the future, go unnamed?
She gestures for the captain to come up to the stand so she can speak to him without the whole courtroom hearing. Gentlemen, I want the names as much as you do.
Rexis will approach as well.
But let me ask you this, and she particularly addresses Blick. As soldiers, how much of that could you take before you would break? Would you break? The question is, will she break?
It's a simple matter of time, Your Honor. Whether or not we'll get useful information.
Well,
is the
that's
question.
my comment. Will it be real information, or will she just start giving?
She's just going to spout out a whole bunch of names.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Could we get Professor Montefario or Dr. Hathrick up here?
They're both available. They both appear before you. Hathrick has shed his cuffs, but he looks a little bit, he's kind of got a little bit of spit in his eye.
Dr. Hathrick, I have a question for you, and you as well, Professor Montefario. Is there any way to ensure someone is telling us the truth? We're interested in getting some information from Miss Blackfire, but I'm not going to waste anyone's time, energy, or crossbow bolts if she's just going to spout out a bunch of fictitious names that we can't really follow.
If I may, Professor Christo, I'm sorry, has in the past demonstrated an incredible resourcefulness with his tinctures and tonics to produce a truth serum, and I feel that with him working side by side with Dr. Hathrick, they could be a wonderful team in acquiring information for us.
Now, of course, we can take it out of my hands and turn it over to Hathrick, and it'll be up to his professional standards whether or not any continued interrogation would be worthwhile, or he believes he can get information. I'll leave that up to him if she is released to our department.
Doctors?
They kind of look at each other like, you want it?
No, you go ahead.
No, age before beauty.
Oh, thank you. Bastard. Listen, it sounds to me like your problem is the deal you're giving her. She wants to die. She does not want to go to jail. She's a half-elf. It'll be about 150 years, perhaps longer, of her sitting inside a rocking boat wishing she was outside. And once again, if politics change and she escapes, she will be twice as angry. You can offer her a better deal, and this happens when you start being such a criminal that the state starts dealing with you. You may have to swallow your pride and let the executioner's axe whiff her neck for the sake of what she can teach us. Or you can administer justice and kill her. Now, if you want to know if we can get the answers out of her, suppose we could, but she's quite powerful. Give it enough time, we could eventually, after enough tries, get through her power. And then if you want to kill her at the end of that, you can, but there are a lot of precedents against making someone live forever to pay for a crime.
That one is off the table, Professor.
But making a deal for someone, she is in such a position that you can bind her to your service as much as you have Hathrick.
Oh, thank you.
I owed you one, shut up.
I thought it was a unique way to take care of Hathrick.
Oh, I don't think it's quite as unique as the government might think.
Dr. Harker's circumstances that led him here are vastly different from Miss Blackfire's.
I gotta admit, having Miss Blackfire as an agent could be useful.
Absolutely not.
Your Honor, if I may point out a precedent, the last time you had someone accused of killing a police officer in your court, you are rather famous for what happened. You have another cop killer in your court, and you've hired him onto the staff. Now you have a gun runner in your court, and she is one fish in a large pond. And what the federal government is probably going to do is they're probably going to send you a letter congratulating you on your perseverance, but also some positive way of telling you to step away from this project and allow the federales to come in, and Rexis will take her away. And Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan will question her. Or you could shoot a hole in her head, like she's asked. If your job was easy, it would have been given to me.
If you do execute her, it would set a precedent that law does not wait for any person. It might be a useful tool, especially as we have more criminals popping up.
As much as I hate to say it, Your Honor, sometimes the law does no justice. Now, tell me, are you a woman of law or a woman of justice?
Very interesting question, Captain.
I guarantee you, though, if you turn her over to us, we'll make sure she's appropriately dealt with.
Yeah, Your Honor, make a profession check to answer that question. There is a right answer.
I rolled a 19 plus an 8, that's 27.
Yeah, you're a Chief Justice. Both law and justice are your job. You're the reason that the law is processed through a sapient and not a flowchart. There's a reason sentences come to your desk, because they know you can treat this as an article of the law, or you can treat this as an article of the military. And it is totally your prerogative to shoot somebody in court. This is military court. So you have, like, on the one hand, you have the hammer, and on the other hand, you have the crossbow bolt. If Charybdis became a judge, he would have no choice but to do certain things. He wouldn't be allowed to shoot somebody in court. He wouldn't be allowed to shoot somebody on sight. You're military police, and if people want to be tried by you, there's a number of reasons a court case comes across your desk, and one of them is because they think they'll get some kind of different interpretation of justice from you than they would get from a normal court.
Thank you.
Which is why you keep getting stupid court. You have the power to override normal law.
Thank you.
So but as a divinely appointed, as a judge, like, yeah, your job is the law and your job is justice, and your job is to listen to these people tell you what justice should be, and you're like, okay, I've heard you and I've heard you, and this is what I know. You could say time served and she walks. You can basically just hand her to the feds and say, take it, do what you want, or you could just pop her. I mean, your stance on guns may be so unilateral and zero tolerance. I mean, just a second ago, you were considering letting them entomb her forever.
No, Grim would not have stood for that. She, on a personal level, might want it, but from the perspective of justice, would go, no.
That any part of you wants it explains just how close to becoming the widow you could be at any time. So bear that in mind. So reality comes back, and you're in court, and this woman's cards are in front of you. Most of them are expired. Some of them are marked forged by having a hole punched in them.
It's your choice, Your Honor.
Grim leans forward. She's got her chin in her hand. She's staring off into the ocean for a few moments, contemplating. Interestingly enough, she motions Brother Lenny over.
I'm having a hard time with this one.
What would you do?
I encounter people daily who sometimes deserve a second chance. And I look at this specimen, the defendant, sitting in our court, and I have listened to her. And I know what she's done. First off, this would not be a second chance for her. This would not be a third chance for her. This is a long line of chances, and it's not just one thing she's done. It would be bad enough if it was only smuggling gunpowder and firearms and illegal magic into our home that she used against our people. She's assaulted officers. She's a thief. She is a broad-scale thief. She is not just, it's not just like she's a common pickpocket. There's racketeering. She gathered information to blackmail officials. She trafficked other sentient beings. All of this. And then counterfeit cards, teleport violations, all of this.
What's your call, Lenny?
My call, if it were up to me, she needs to go away. If that is a permanent go away, that's a permanent go away. Now, I don't believe that we need to sentence her to death or undeath or life in prison plus undeath. I think that's a little extreme because that's just...
Well, we can stick her in prison each time she cooperates, and then we can revisit her case later if she's provided enough information and proved useful at that time. Perhaps there would be a chance for her to be released, but...
No, her chances are done. She never breathed free air again.
I'm just saying, it's an option.
Best case scenario, she dies protecting the names of her cohorts. Worst case scenario, she lives forever and says nothing and has to live with it. What state resources?
And is miserable.
What resources, Rexis?
It's a waste of state resources to keep her if she won't give us names. Oh, if she's alive, feeding her, interning her, that would be a waste of resources.
I'm certain that we commandeered real money from her, not just the counterfeit.
Of course.
That money would be used to keep her alive. I think perhaps we keep her alive and then the word gets out on the street that we have her and that maybe she's interested in cutting a deal, and that smokes out some of her compatriots.
You really think
That's a
that
thought as
her
well.
compatriots are so stupid to come out of the woodwork to either try and save her or try and kill her? No, they will disappear like the wind.
Maybe the word gets out that she's going to cut a deal. I think many of them are afraid of her talking.
Do you want to gauge the intelligence value of this, like the situation of this politically? You and Felkie roll. In fact,
Sure.
Judge, you roll profession as well.
I heard dice, so I'm rolling dice.
I only got a 14 that time.
Okay, so that is a 12 plus 8 for a 20.
I got a 24.
I rolled lousy again tonight. I'm having dice problems. I rolled a 14.
Yeah, me too.
This person has definitely got more information that you could use to make more arrests. It is probably the cold hard reality that this person could give up enough names that it would save more lives, and they would in turn give up other people. This is a classic case of you caught the crime boss, they turned state's evidence, and the thing is, you're not, some random district court judge. You're the highest judge of the military. So you have a lot of politics to consider. And the right thing as a politician, the right move of your office would be to hand her over to the feds. But if you want to get into what is justice, well, you would calculate the number of people this person hurt, and you'd see if death is the worst thing you can. Because the other thing going on is, you're not killing them just to punish them, you're killing them to protect society from them.
GM, you said that Joellen is a half-elf, right?
Half-elf.
Half-elf. Okay. At this time, I would like to call on my favorite enemy to get my +2 bonus on sense motive check against elves.
Uh-huh.
I rolled a 15 plus 5 for 20.
What are you trying to determine?
If she is actually willing to give up the information.
She said she's willing to give up the information. What she's not willing to do is go to prison. She will take execution before you put her... It seems her bigger problem is
She's gonna have to go to prison.
she doesn't want to go to prison because she's an elf. Half-elf. Elf can't. Now, if you change the deal to say, we'll kill you if you tell us, if you don't, we'll let you rot in prison until you change your mind, that's barbaric, but it might be more effective. Keeping her on, she's probably going to be one of those people that the government keeps in a box that, when the movie starts, they go after that person that they've locked away forever to the world, throwing away the key, and they bring her out, and she goes, oh, you don't know what you're up against, and we're forming a team, it is off the record. We understand that you're level 9. She might be...
Yeah, if she's not cooperating.
You may be dealing with a fish from another pond, but... That's kind of partially Rexis's call, but you have to make it soon. We're just about at an hour and 15 on real time, and we got to quit it.
Could offer her threaten hard labor for the rest of her life. If she
You
doesn't
can make
cooperate,
threats.
so-
They'll have varying degrees of success, but the standard procedure would just be to hand her over to the Violetta government and say,
Yeah. My vote would be that you hand her over to us, and we'll handle her. You should consider that a death penalty, just so you know. She will not.
She would be going
She
away.
will not.
So, like, the big deal is that she doesn't want to spend a lot of time in jail. I can shorten her lifespan so she doesn't have to spend that long in jail.
How would you do that?
I can age her. I can summon. No, I can just summon a time elemental and use him to age him.
That's not. That's kind of like cruel and unusual.
Is it unusual?
Well, all right. Aging.
Is it more cruel than undead?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know something, like, instead of going to jail being aged, would that be acceptable? How interesting. That's actually...
Or like being aged and going to jail. There you go. You don't spend as much time.
You motherfucker. You're only here half the time and you never roleplay, but goddamn. I mean, when you do speak, it's like, fuck. He's a great problem solver, isn't he? He doesn't roleplay at all, but he's got a great sense of humor, a great laugh, and... when he does speak, I can never, like, it's very rare I can tell him you're totally wrong and all your assumptions are completely erratic. No, he's usually onto something, except when he was like, hey, what happens if I have them touch their own corpses? You traumatize them, Moises. That's what you do. That was pretty hilarious, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you've heard my vote. Blick, let's do round robin. Let's see what everybody votes for.
It is the judge's word at this point.
We already have said that. I think that it's the judge's final word at this point.
I want to thank you all for your perspectives. We will be releasing Joel and Blackfire into the care and custody of the feds, and then they can deal with her. And hopefully this will prevent more of what we've seen.
Rexis will walk over to Miss Blackfire. Miss Blackfire, you and I are going to be making quite good friends.
Oh, great. Like last time when you jump out the window. We started on a good foot, you and me.
Well, I tried not to harm you in that, but we did take a fall together. Don't worry, this should be fairly painless.
All rise.
Court is adjourned. Let justice be done.
Okay, people kind of start drifting back to their duties and off, like, toward the gangway to get off the boat. You kind of make your way back to your office, and when you get there, there's a familiar face waiting for you. It's Shinjo Haibatsu, and he's wearing all white.
Ah, yes, I remember the significance of that.
I wanted to thank you for, not only satisfying my wish, but... I was very lucky to, instead of having to commit seppuku, I was fortunate enough to die in actual combat.
Yes, you were. Now, I understand that that's a much more preferable mode of death in your culture, but what can I do for you? I'm a little surprised to see you here.
Nothing. I couldn't dare ask for more. The only thing is I have to find a new job. I'm sure I'm out of work with my home. We're going over the funeral arrangements. I'll be wearing white for about the next month and a half, but maybe I'll give up the sword and take up martial arts. I've got all the time in the world to learn, don't I?
True, that you do. Well, tell me, Shinjo-san, tell me about your skill set.
Foreign relations, cavalry scouting, Aijitsu dueling, flower arranging, stupid things that my culture holds dear, killing my other countrymen so the emperor stays on the throne. Horseback riding and everything to do with horses. You'd think we take them as lovers. It's ridiculous. There's a great deal I could find myself doing. Now, you sound ready to offer me a job. I will only interrupt with a short story of a thing that happened in my country for a while. There was a rash of people asking rich men to commit seppuku on their land. Now, that was discovered to be a ploy to get the rich person to say, oh, don't kill yourself, work for me. And this is actually the plot of a real movie. A Japanese movie about samurai doing this. It's all true, and it's actually true. So I would consider working for you on the boat where I was slain. I would just have to make up a story as to why it does not draw any parallels to the stories of the old...
Well, you'd be serving on the battleship, not the Eurus Goodbye.
Oh, I wouldn't serve on a boat called the Eurus Goodbye. I tell you that. But I might have a future in Ocean City now that I don't breathe.
Of course.
I will let you get back, but please be advised that the recording must end soon.
Captain, what can I do for you?
I'm well aware of your situation, and I wanted to apologize formally and privately for putting you in that position, but at this time I would like to say very specifically, don't become the bad guy. That's my job. Make me the bad guy, so you don't have to be.
She gets up from behind her desk and she walks around. She very warmly, she clasps his hand. She says, Captain, I don't feel that is your role here. I don't feel the role of any of us is to become the villain. And I never want you to censor yourself and not speak your truth to me or to anyone else that we work with.
You will never see me censor my thoughts.
Good, because we need your frankness. We need how candid you are. That is a valuable asset to this team.
But we also can't have you going on a tirade. So, when it really matters, let the worst decision be mine, not yours.
This is an interesting exchange between two soldiers, two killers.
Yes, and Blick is well aware that the worst case scenario for Judge Grimmadine is to become the evil that she is sworn to fend off. So given the opportunity to take on that evil and be a much lesser evil than evil version of the judge, for her to become another widow is unacceptable. For Blick to be the bad guy, anybody can kill Blick. Who can kill the widow?
Who can kill Blick? He's got all of our hearts. We can kill Blick.
At that, I would like to request we end the recording.
No, can't kill Blick. Nope.
Seconded. Anybody else?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Go
Good
for
job,
it.
you
Motion
guys.
carries.
That turned out to be a lot more interesting and involved than I thought. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, Judge Saoirse Grimmadine, for holding court. Thank you, Eurus, and also Erin
Moriarty.
Me backwards. God damn.
Very specific.
Fucking
Very
fuck
specific.
Thank your mom.
Erin Moriarty, our producer. Our soundtrack is by Kevin MacLeod and editing by Dr. Never. And this is Dr. Never telling you, turn in next time. Podcasting isn't boring, really. Thanks, guys.
Bloody degrelants! Next time on the Gavel, the judge and her cadre visit Heartwood, the red light district, in search of a lost lamb. But they might not be on the trail of just anyone. You can sponsor us at the Montresor Media Patreon and tell us how bloody brilliant we are at Twitter at WeAreNPCs. You might as well. We won't hear of anything else. Sometimes sucker, head, ass, fucker, hole, loser,
That's
face,
enough. Thank you.
grand, giga,
Miss,
ultra.
if you